In this video, we are going to discuss the features of our LEADTOOLS PAX DICOM Storage Server demo and show you how you might use it in a PAX solution. The demo is meant to be used as the groundwork for a storage server for use in real-world enterprise systems. But before we can cover the server, let's take a brief look at how the LEADTOOLS medical framework is structured. We'll look at the diagram from right to left. First, you'll see the client machines, a workstation, and a modality. You can see the many services they will be providing to the user. In the center is the LEADTOOLS PAX server framework. The next shell in is the service manager, which manages all of the services. In the service manager, we have two services, DICOM Server 1 and DICOM Server 2. The service manager allows you to start, stop, and pause each service. You can also add, edit, or remove a service using the service manager. Inside each DICOM server is a Windows service which communicates with an add-in manager. The Windows service is an executable LEADTOOLS provides to take care of all the boilerplate coding required to implement a DICOM server. The Windows service represents a DICOM server with AE title, port number, and contains a client listing for accepted AE titles. The DICOM services each DICOM server is able to provide is determined by the particular add-ins available. The add-ins will typically communicate with a database through a data access layer. A DICOM client will associate with the DICOM server. The server will know what services it can offer by communicating with the add-ins. Each add-in contains a list of attributes for all the presentation context with transfer syntax it supports for each function implementing a service. Once a DICOM client issues a command such as a store, the command along with the dataset is sent to the DICOM server, who in turn passes it to the storage add-in. The storage add-in then performs the action by inserting the information into a database or communicating with another PAX or doing whatever the user has coded. Our PAX storage server was built using this same framework. It is a Windows service that has multiple add-ins available for it to use. By default, it installs with add-ins customized for the demo. However, you can also add additional add-ins as well. In addition to the add-ins, the storage server also has other features that are useful in the day-to-day management of a PAX. Before we can run the PAX storage server demo, we must first set up the LEADTOOLS medical framework. This can be easily done using our PAX configuration demos. Launch the PAX configuration tool utility. You'll see a dialog letting you know that the databases for the framework need to be set up first. Click Yes to run the database configuration demo. You can see that you have the option to connect to existing databases or to create new ones. The databases that will be created or can be connected to are listed here to the left. Also, this demo will add you as a user to the Workstation User Management Database. You'll use this login information to access some of the client-side demos, including the PAX storage server. Click Next. By default, we will use the Microsoft SQL Server Compact 3.5 database provider. You can adjust this to use Microsoft SQL Server instead if you have SQL Server installed. By default, we install a SQL Server and SQL Server Compact Data Access layer. If you wish to use a different provider, you will need to create a data access layer for the framework to use to access the database. Click Next multiple times to create the databases and close the database configuration demo. The PAX configuration demo will then continue. This demo will install the Windows services that represent the DICOM servers on the machine. You can see our packed storage server is listed to be installed as well. Click Configure to install the services. Once finished, close the PAX configuration demo. Now we'll take a look at the LEADTOOLS PAX DICOM Storage Server. After you double-click the shortcut, you'll be prompted with a login dialog. Enter the username and password you used in the database configuration demo. What you see now is the LEADTOOLS PAX DICOM Storage Server's user interface. From here you can manage all the settings of the server. The first setting we will manage is the idle timeout setting. This setting will pop up the login dialog if you have been idle for a specified number of seconds. Since we're recording a video, we will see this dialog many times if we do not disable it. Simply uncheck here and click Apply. I'll close this dialog for now so we can discuss the options that appear on the main page. On the main screen that is presented to you, you'll see some buttons, some tabs, some information at the top, and a list of features this demo offers at the bottom. The top of the demo shows you the name of the server, lists the AE title, host name, port number, and the status of the server. Let's go ahead and start the server by pressing the play button. Press the stop button to stop the server. To the right, we have a button for displaying the settings for the server, an About button, and an Exit button. The buttons you see in the center are a mix of configurable add-ins and built-in functionality provided by the server. They are displayed in the Control Panel tab. Any additional add-ins you wish to add to the server will show up in the Add-ons tab. You can see now it is empty. However, if I copy an add-in to the server's add-in directory, we'll copy the media creation add-in from another server directory, I now paste it in our storage servers directory and restart the storage server demo. When we look at the Add-ons tab, we can see the media creation add-in. We'll take a look at the Event Log tab a little later. Let's first look at the System Information tab and the Database Manager tab. The System Information tab provides a wealth of information. At the top, you can see the name of the Windows service that this information is referring to and how long it has been running. To the very right, we have a button that opens the Computer System Information application, giving you quick and easy access to information about your machine. The next section provides you with a listing of all the databases in use by this server, the connection string, data source name, and the name of the database. The Modules section lists for you all the LEADTOOLS DLLs being used by the PAX storage server and their version numbers. This will allow you to quickly and easily ensure you have the most up-to-date files in use. The storage section provides you with a count of patients, studies, series, and images in the server. You can press the Calculate Total Data Stored button to determine the size of the information. You can also see the number of clients connected and view the setting for the current number of clients that can connect at one time. The Database Manager tab allows you to manage the DICOM files that are currently stored in the storage database. You can query based on specific information, add DICOM files, DICOM dir, remove DICOM files, and see status information about all these processes. You can also view the results of these queries at the image level, series level, study level, and patient level. When you first select the Event Log tab, you'll see there are no logs listed. To populate the list view with logs, you must perform a search. You can search for logs based on the filters provided, such as type or command. You can specify a date range, or you can search for logs from a particular client or server. Leaving everything blank will populate the list view with all logs available. Press the search button to perform a search. You can double-click on any of the logs or press the Show Details button to see more details with the log. Press the Next and Previous buttons to scroll through all the logs listed. Should a log contain a dataset, you can press the View Dataset button to view the dataset's metadata. Select multiple logs to save them to disk in one text file. Or remove them from the list view using the Delete Selected button. You can delete the selected logs, the logs currently displayed, or all the logs. The delete settings can be controlled through user permissions as well. Another feature of the event log is the ability to continuously query the log using the Start Continuous Query button. You can access the server settings in two ways, either by clicking the Settings button in the upper right-hand corner, or by going to the Control Panel tab and clicking on any of the buttons. The first options displayed are about the properties of the Windows service and the identification information for the storage server. Here you should set an implementation class UID identifying your company and an implementation version name. The grayed out settings cannot be altered while the service is running. Stop the service to make these settings available to be altered. You can also delete the service if necessary and add it back. In the client configuration, you can add client information to the list of acceptable clients that can connect to the storage server. You can specify the AE title, IP address, subnet mask, port, and secure port. You can also give the client permission to overwrite a duplicate entry, delete an entry, or update an entry in the storage database. The delete and update entry options are non-DICOM options LEADTOOLS has added to improve usability of the storage server. We will go over these features when discussing the Patient Updater feature later on in the video. In the Options tab, you can allow anonymous connections or allow the same client to connect to the storage server multiple times concurrently. You can specify a maximum number of clients that can connect at one time and specify in seconds how long to wait for each step in a connection. By default, the storage server will use the current user's temporary directory for creating temporary files. If you have another directory you would prefer the temporary files to be created in, you can specify that here. The networking options allow you to adjust the PDU maximum length and some other socket options. Most of the options found in the storage settings come from the storage add-in the storage server uses. With the Files tab in the Store settings, you can adjust where the actual DICOM files received are stored on the physical drive and what extension to give them. You can back up the DICOM files prior to overwriting them and also prior to deleting them if you've specified for the DICOM files to be deleted when the record is removed from the storage database. Should a failure occur in the store operation, you can have what was transferred saved to disk as well. With the Directory Structure tab, you can specify how the directories are named as they are created for any of the reasons we just covered. The Images tab lets you specify whether you wish for non-DICOM image thumbnails to be generated for each DICOM file stored. By checking the Create Thumbnail Image checkbox, our storage add-in will then store a thumbnail image of the image received in the format specified with the dimensions specified. If you wish to have the thumbnail created in multiple formats, use the Add button to add more formats to the list. The supported formats are JPEG, JPEG 2000, TIFF, TIFF JPEG, and TIFF JPEG 2000. In the Options tab, you can adjust the storage setting that will override the settings found in the client configuration. You can prevent any AE title from storing a duplicate SOP instance. You can adjust the update options and allow auto-truncating of data. The Query Settings options allow you to make several adjustments to the requested and response datasets that are sent back and forth. In the IOD classes, you can add your own storage IODs and transfer syntax. At the top of the Storage Classes tab, we provide a listing of all storage IODs LEADTOOLS supports. At the bottom, we provide a list of all storage IODs currently supported by the storage add-in. You can add to this from the above list, or you can add your own as well using the Create button. Double-clicking any of the items in the supported storage IOD list, you can modify the supported transfer syntax for the IOD. To adjust which transfer syntax are supported, switch to the Transfer Syntax tab. At the top, we provide a listing of all the transfer syntaxes that LEADTOOLS supports. At the bottom, we provide a list of all the transfer syntaxes currently supported by the storage add-in. You can add to this list from the above list, and you can add your own as well using the Create button. Let's create one now. Press the Create button and specify a unique identifier followed by a description. We'll enter something simple for a UID and the description. As you can see, it is now listed in the Master Transfer Syntax list, and an icon is displayed next to it so you know this is a user-defined transfer syntax. You can then add it to the list of supported transfer syntax by selecting it and pressing the Add button. Going back to the Storage Classes tab, if I double-click one of the supported IODs, you can see our transfer syntax is now listed as an option. You would create a storage IOD in the same fashion. Only users logged on as administrators will be able to see the next section, Administration. Under Password Options, you have the ability to control the complexity a user password needs to have. You can control its minimum length, the number of days until it expires, and the maximum number of tries to enter it until the screen locks. As we saw at the beginning of the video, you can set an idle timeout, forcing any user to log in again if he or she has been idle for the specified number of seconds. Under Users, you can manage all the users of the storage server. You can reset their password, view when the password expires, and modify their permissions. We're going to skip over the Patient Updater for now and come back to it later on. The next thing we'll talk about is the Auto Copy. Auto Copy lets you automatically copy datasets from the storage server to other servers whenever a move is performed to a specified machine. Let's take a look at the following demonstration. Let's say you're sitting at a workstation, Workstation 1, and you issue a move command to the server to move the dataset to Workstation 2. With autocopy enabled and pre-configured, the storage server will also copy the same datasets to Workstations 3 and Workstation 4. One use for this is if you're prefetching images for a radiologist and you don't know which workstations the radiologist will be using. Instead of having to issue a move request to each machine, you can have the server automatically copy the files to each machine specified. The Advanced tab allows you to specify a custom AE title which will be used instead of the storage server's AE title. You can also specify the number of processing threads to use in the autocopy process. In the logging configuration, you can enable the logging and whether threading will be used. You'll want to have threading enabled for normal use to sustain performance. You can filter which messages to add to the log and where to place any datasets that are part of the logged message. Check the Enable Autosave log to have the server automatically back up all the logs in the logging database to a text file in a specified directory at a specified interval and time. You can also have the logs deleted from the database once they are backed up. The storage server contains a feature called forwarding. With forwarding, you can forward all the contents of the storage database to another machine. You can specify a start date and time and an end date and time with a repeat option. Once forwarding has completed, you can then remove the forwarded records from the database using the clean feature. The hold time tells the cleaning process not to clean a record unless it is past a certain age. In the Advanced tab, you can specify to use a custom AE title and to verify the records have been forwarded using a cfind request. There is a button you can use to forward any pending data immediately. There is also a button to clean any pending data immediately as well. The reset forwarding options allow you to convert any data marked as forwarded, but has not been cleaned yet, to be marked as not forwarded. This is useful for cases where the forwarded information failed to be forwarded for whatever reason. You can mark the data as not forwarded in order to attempt to forward it again. The gateway settings allow you to create a gateway server that can communicate with multiple remote servers. With most hospital systems, a central server can be found either on-site at the central office or at an off-site location. Branches of the hospital system will need access to the central server. But giving access to each user in each hospital branch to the central server not only poses a possible security breach, but also would be a maintenance nightmare. You would have to enter the AE title, host name, and port number for each user, set each user's permissions, and possibly have many users all connect at one time, which may bring the entire server down. This is where the gateway comes into play. Each hospital branch would have a gateway which is given access to the central server. Each user in the hospital branch is then given access to the gateway. Using this setup, only one connection is made to the central server at a time from each gateway. And instead of the central server having to store a list of all users from all branches, it only needs to know about each gateway at each hospital branch, cutting down on the administrative tasks required to maintain the central server. Each gateway can have a list of remote servers it will communicate with. It will access them in sequential order. If server 1 is not available, it will then try server 2, and so on until it establishes a communication. The patient updater allows you to update patient information in the storage server. You can update patient information or even merge records together. The update is not only performed on the storage server, but can also be automatically sent to other servers. Select an AE title the update may come from, and select the servers you would like the update to be forwarded to. There is also a retry, allowing the storage server to retry the update should the connection fail for a specified time. The Advanced tab allows you to specify a custom AE title to use and the number of threads to reserve for the task. We have now covered all the default functionality available to the storage server. Of course, you can modify the server to add or remove functionality as you see fit. The source code for the server can be found in your LEADTOOLS installation. Browse to the .NET class libraries, .NET Framework, Medical, Pack Storage Server. Under this directory, you will see we give you the source code for the server itself, the patient updater, all the add-ins the server uses, the data access layers, and the forms the add-ins and server use. Each project is shipped in C# and Visual Basic. In Visual Studio 2008 and 2010, and in 32-bit and 64-bit.